Hello, and welcome to the Vault of Truth YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the Illuminati Empire, and we're going to look at the people who are actually in charge of this world, and you're going to quickly see that everything in this world is completely backwards. It's upside down. All of the evil people are at the top, and the good people are at the bottom. Of course, that's the way that Satan has designed all of this, and that's how you can be lied to about the shape of the earth, and, that's how so many deceptions can be running, and that's why there's so much evil in this world going unchecked. Because right now, the devil's in charge, and he put all of his minions at the top. So let's go ahead and get into this here. So as you can see here, this is the power structure for the Illuminati Empire. You have Satan at the top. Then you have the world monarchs, or the Antichrist is below that. Also the false prophet. Then below that, you have the Council of 13. And this is your 13 richest families in the world, such as the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers, that basically have trillions of dollars in family wealth that are very influential and run many things in the world. Then below that, you have a council with basically a larger number of people that also are very influential, very rich. And then below that, you have your think tank organizations, such as the United Nations and various others, that are kind of involved in shaping the New World Order and shaping world organizations and kind of shaping kind of how mankind needs to be governed. And then right below that, you've got your central banks, and supported by tax revenue and interest revenue. The central banks obviously are very powerful in controlling the world, and very much tied in with the 13 richest families in that Council of 13. Then below that, of course, you've got your mega corporations that are running a lot of aspects of the world, including, a lot of our media and a lot of things that we interact with on a daily basis, of course. Then below that, you finally have your world governments. So as you can see, look how far down the totem pole presidents and world leaders are. They're actually very, very low, actually, in the Illuminati power structure, and that should kind of tell you something that, all these governments that are set up over all these nations, including the United States, are just puppets. They're just actors. They're just in there to trick the populaces into thinking that, these are kind of like the days of old, and governments run things, and people are actually elected and things like that. It's all baloney. These people are all selected just to be, TV personalities for the masses. And they just take their orders on from the higher ups, basically, on how to run the various nations they're in charge of. So, you've got that there. You got military, police. They put religion there, which is kind of interesting. As Christians, we know that it's all about a relationship with God and Jesus Christ. But to the Illuminati, they see religion as a form of control, because it's they see it as kind of like a weakening of people, or kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They see it as kind of a method of controlling people and shaping people into just obeying. So, they know that a lot of religions are about, submitting to your government and being meek and mild and kind of turning the other cheek and being peaceful and being nonviolent and being, just kind of going with the flow. And they know that, so they utilize religions to kind of be kind of a control mechanism over the people, and it's sad. And of course, as I've shown you in one of my previous videos with the failed church system, obviously, the church system here running in the United States is very much controlled, and they've gotten their hands around it, and have pretty much succeeded in keeping all the Christians in the dark about a large number of things, and basically weakening the church down to the point of it being almost useless. But they still see religion as kind of part of their methodology of control. But of course, true Christians, we know that, it's not about religion. Religion has nothing to do with it, and that a real relationship with God and Jesus overcomes all of this stuff. But they don't know that, of course. And then at the bottom of the pyramid, you have the masses, who are basically described as a slave labor force. So now in this graphic here, we have another way to look at their power structure. So as you can see, we talked about the Council of 13 being in the top, and then you got a couple other councils below that with the Grand Orient and, the Benai Barith, which I've never really heard of. But, all of those groups are kind of contained within the higher rankings of the Illuminati. And then, of course, below that, you've got your kind of lower levels of Freemasonry. You've got your White Masonry and then the Blue Lodge, and until you get all the way to the bottom where you just have secular humanism, which is just the common masses, again, being at the bottom. But, this is obviously showing that the Illuminati are in control of everything. And, Freemasons, Skull and Bones, all these cults and groups, they're all part of the Illuminati. It's all these cults that you hear about are all under the umbrella of the Illuminati and the high-ranking Council of 13, Illuminati members. And, of course, in speaking about Skull and Bones, here's the logo for the Skull and Bones cult. And their number, of course, is 322. And as I've explained in one of my previous videos, I believe that 322 represents March 2020 when, the pandemic began and everything. And basically represents when doom for mankind kind of began and when the seals began from Revelation. I think that's always been kind of their secret date to kind of begin initiating chaos in the world that's going to bring about their new world order, because their big slogan is order out of chaos. So I believe this date represents when their chaos begins to establish their one world government. And here's all your people that are in the Council of 13. So again, these are your 13 richest families in the world. You have Astor, Collins, DuPont, Kennedy, Bundy, Reynolds, Freeman, Lee, Rothschild, Van Duyn, Rockefeller, Onassis, and Russell. So, these are the families that are in control of the world with trillions and trillions of dollars. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Freemasonry. And there's about 6 million Freemason members worldwide, plus another 6,000 female Freemasons. Then you have roughly 16,000 Jesuits, and they are basically the Catholic equivalent of Freemasonry. Then you have about another 2,800 Skull and Bones members, and these are primarily for U.S. presidents and other prominent political figures. The U.S. has roughly 13,000 Masonic lodges, and worldwide, the total number comes to about 20,000. Now, the world population is roughly 8.2 billion, but if you're talking about the section of the populace that the Illuminati would be involved with infiltrating, you're really talking about working age people, because obviously children are not going to be in organizations and politics and mega corporations or the military or actors or any of those things. And also, very old people or retired people are not going to be involved. So you're talking about the working age section of the populace, and that's about 4 billion. Now, one critical thing that's important to understand with the Illuminati, just like any other cults, such as Scientology, the lower level members are kind of the fake front for what the organization really is. So, for example, Scientology, they tell all the lower level people that kind of give the tours and show the general public what they're about. They tell them, that it's all about medicine and healing and well-being and detoxification and things like that. However, all you have to do is look at major whistleblowers like, for example, Leigh Remini. If you ever watched that documentary where she is a celebrity that got pulled into Scientology and found out what the true meanings of it are, once she got pulled to the higher levels in the inner circles, she found out it was not at all about any of those things, and that it was an evil cult that is trying to control people and trying to achieve all kinds of evil agendas and infiltrate different organizations and corporations and doing evil things to make lots of money off of gullible people. So the Illuminati is no different. So the first 3 levels that Freemasons achieve are called the blue levels. And these individuals are confined to the blue lodges. And they are told that Freemasonry is a Christian organization and they do charitable things and it's all about brotherhood and being, good examples for your community. And the vast majority of members that are in the blue levels stay in the blue levels. And it is only by invitation do you move past the blue levels onto Freemason level 4 or beyond. And the invitation will usually take place when the overseer of one of these blue lodges identifies a candidate that meets the criteria of people they are looking for. And then these members that progress to level 4 and beyond then become red members. And it is really these red level people that would be the ones involved in infiltrating different parts of society, especially as you move up to the higher levels and definitely level, 32, 33 Mason. These individuals will be infiltrating all areas of politics and sports and mega corporations and major scientists, all the high places of society. And the estimated number of red level Freemasons is roughly 4 million. So given that, then that means that roughly 1 out of every 1,000 people in the world is an Illuminati agent that is infiltrating some organization or some political sphere to try to influence world events in the direction that the world is going. So now let's talk about the different levels of Freemasonry. So obviously, as we were just talking about, the Blue Lodge has the first 3 levels. Number 1 is Entered Apprentice. Number 2 is the Fellowcraft. And number 3 is Master Mason. And again, Master Mason is as high as you can get without being invited to go further. Now we move into the red levels, and now we're in the Red Lodge. And the first Red Lodge you enter into is the Lodge of Perfection, where you become level 4, Master Traveler. Then level 5, Perfect Master. Then level 6, Master of the Brazen Serpent. Level 7, Provost and Judge. Then level 8, Indentant of the Building. Level 9, Master of the Temple. Level 10, Master Elect. Then level 11, Sublime Master Elected. Level 12, Master of Mercy. Then level 13, Master of the Ninth Arch. Then level 14, Grand Elect Mason. Next, you move to the Council of the Princes of Jerusalem, where you become level 15, Knight of the East. And then level 16, Prince of Jerusalem. And now, if you move to level 17, you move to the final Red Lodge, and that is the Chapter of Rose Croix, where you hit level 17, Knight of the East and West. Then you move to level 18, Knight of the Rose Croix of HRDM. Then level 19, Consistory. Then you move to level 20, Brothers of the Trail. Then level 21, Master Ad Vitam. Then level 22, Patriarch Noachite. Then level 23, Prince of Libanus. Then level 24, Knight of Valor. Then level 25, Brother of the Forest. Next is level 26, Master of Achievement. Next is level 27, Friend and Brother Eternal. 28, Knight of Jerusalem. 29, Knight of the Sun. Level 30, Knight of St. Andrew. 31, Grand Inspector. And then 32, My Brother's Keeper. And now we come to the coveted level 33. This is the level that most Masons never reach. You must demonstrate great loyalty and devotion to the Brotherhood, and you must demonstrate great professional and personal achievements. So this level, we're talking about well-known politicians, famous athletes, famous musicians, astronauts, well-known lawyers, well-known scientists, Nobel Prize winners, anyone who is influential in society and well-known in the world. It is estimated that there are around 4,000 level 33 Masons. I am going to attach a website link in the description box that will take you to a Masonic website that lists famous Freemasons throughout the world and throughout history. And you will be astonished at just how many there are and how many of these famous people that you will recognize, and you'll be like, wow, I didn't realize they were a Mason. I mean, we're talking every U.S. president. We're talking the founders of the Constitution. We're talking all of the Supreme Court judges. We're talking, senators, congressmen, famous actors, famous athletes, founders of successful major corporations, founders of large medical institutions, founders of well-known colleges, Nobel Prize winners, heads of the FBI, the CIA, the Pentagon, military leaders. So make no mistake, Freemasons have infiltrated all of the high positions in the world. This is not some hidden group that's hiding away in basements in some abandoned buildings around the world. These are the most influential people in the world. So, of course, they could easily steer world events and direct the world in the direction they want it to go. And you need to remember, too, that those 4 million Illuminati members, the Red Lodge members, are not the only ones who are influencing the world. You have a ton of people who are indirectly doing it by virtue of being deceived by the Illuminati members at the tops of these places. So you have all of the deceived individuals that are just perpetuating all these agendas by default. And then you have another group of people, and that is those that are just paid large sums of money to move agendas forward. They don't necessarily have to join Freemasonry or any of the other, subcults of the Illuminati. They just take fat paychecks and do their various jobs and do what they're told to do by the Illuminati. And there's no telling how many of those people there are. See, when you add in these two new groups of people, you're probably talking tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of people that are helping to perpetuate these agendas. Just take the shape of the earth, for example. Think about all of the teachers and professors worldwide that are teaching that the earth is a spinning ball. And it's not because they're Illuminati members and they're in on some kind of agenda. It's just because they're deceived and they don't know any better. Think about all the museums that display NASA craft and technology, or they display things about the solar system and more things about the ball Earth. Does that mean that all of the owners of the museums are in on it? No. They don't know any better. So I cannot make this point clear enough that the majority of people that are perpetuating these things worldwide that are agendas of the Illuminati are not in the Illuminati themselves. So I don't want to hear any more of this nonsense from people that say, in order for all these agendas to move forward, half the world would have to be in on all of this stuff. As I just explained, that's absolutely incorrect. And there are more than enough Illuminati members worldwide to cause the trickle-down effect and have all of this be extremely successful. We can look at an organization like NASA, for example. Not every NASA employee is a Freemason. In fact, very few of them are. For example, you might have a Department of Engineers that's designing the communication systems on Voyager 1, for example. They don't know that Voyager 1 is not real and is not really going to space. All they do is come to work every day, work on AutoCAD or in their various software programs, design their little components and modules and systems that will go on this craft, and then they go home every day. And finally, somewhere down the road, they're shown some supposed video in mission control of this craft, landing on Mars or orbiting around Jupiter or traveling past Neptune. They have no way to verify whether that footage is actually real or not. They just simply believe it is. And this represents 90% of your NASA employees. So it's only the top 10% that need to be in on it. And as far as, spacecraft or satellites or these things, being built or not, yes, they are built. And then they're just secretly shipped out to some warehouse where they just sit. Then after the fact, you have some CGI artist who is in on it, who is a Mason, create a fabricated mission video that shows the craft supposedly, landing on Mars, like I said, or orbiting Venus, or flying around the moon. And it's as simple as that. Then I hear people ask, what keeps people in line in the Illuminati? Why aren't there more whistleblowers and people trying to expose them? And the answer is money, fame, and fear. The first two, money and fame, is enough to keep 99% of them in line and doing it because they're getting rich and famous. None of them would ever dare risk all of that to step out and try to blow the whistle, lose all their money, lose their fame, have to run for their life. And you have to remember, these people sign a blood oath when they join up, that if they defect and they go out and they start leaking information or speaking up about any of this, they will be dealt with. And I'm sure that ranges through any number of punishments up to death. And on very rare occasions, there are still whistleblowers that step out. For example, when President Kennedy came out in one of his speeches and said, I'm aware of a plot that exists to enslave every American man, woman, and child, and before I leave office, I intend to get to the bottom of it. Well, guess what happened to him? A week later, he was killed. because you can't betray the Illuminati like that. They will deal with you. The famous musician Prince got on a talk show and started talking about chemtrails. Guess what happened to him a week or two later? Mysteriously died of some medical issue. I remember Joan Rivers came out and was one of the first people to call out that Michael Obama is a tranny. Well, guess what happened to her? A couple weeks later, she dies of some mysterious medical incident. And all it takes is just some examples like this being made every now and then to keep all the rest of everyone else in check so that they come to the realization, oh crap, they're not playing. I can't betray them. I will die. And that's the way the devil works. You can't renege on your contract. Once you sign your soul away and make your deal with the devil, there's no going back. Now, this actually reminds me, there's one more group of people throughout the world that is also contributing to the agendas of the Illuminati, though they don't even realize they're doing it. And that would be all of your demon-possessed individuals. You have to remember, ultimately, the goal of the Illuminati is the goal of Satan. So you better believe all of Satan's minions, his army, is going to be attempting to possess additional human beings and have these people also carrying out his agenda. And these possessed people will not even realize they're doing it. So when you add all of the groups of people worldwide that are contributing to the satanic agendas, you're talking about the Illuminati, the highly paid non-Illuminati people, the deceived people, and then the demonically possessed people, you literally could be talking about half of the world's population or more. And so there you have it. So unfortunately, these agendas won't be stopped. None of this will be stopped or reversed until Jesus Christ himself comes back on the Battle of Armageddon and wipes it all off of the earth. You just need to make sure you are saved and do not participate in any of these satanic agendas. So now we're going to look at the primary piece of Illuminati symbolism that's world famous. Probably just about everyone in the world has seen this somewhere, somehow. So the two pillars you see in front represent their two pillars of deception. These are the two pillars upon which the Illuminati Empire exists. One of those is the Globe Earth hoax. The other is the space hoax, as you can see in the orbs at the top. They stand in front of the truth, which is behind the pillars, as you can see the domed flat earth realm. With the tree beneath it, you can see the sun and the moon outside of the dome firmament, and you see the eye of God, which is their God, that they put up there, which is Lucifer. You will notice three pillars in the background, and that represents their false trinity of Satan, the false prophet, and the Antichrist. Then, more towards the front, you see a bed with the Bible on it. Also has the three-pillar symbology of the false trinity, and this is showing that they are in bed with the Bible, or that they know the Bible very well and have known how to manipulate it and manipulate the church system to deceive the masses. The next item that you see in the front is the checkered floor. That represents the false dichotomy of light and then the false light. The true light being God and everything that's true, and then the false light being Satan and all the deceptions. It also represents a chessboard, and these Illuminati elites consider themselves chess masters, and they are literally moving events and peoples around throughout the world, just as chess players move chess pieces on a chessboard to achieve their end game. They consider themselves the hidden hand of the world, the invisible force behind the scenes that controls things and moves everything into place. I've recently been playing the game Cyberpunk, and I usually play these games and watch these movies and things because I'm looking for the Illuminati symbolism. And sure enough, you encounter a character by the name of Mr. Hands. This character sits at the top of a pyramid in the middle of Dogtown in the game, and this pyramid looks just like the Luxor in Las Vegas. It has a light that shoots out of the top of it, and his office has all of the Egyptian symbology. It has a picture of Osiris and a picture of Horus on opposite walls. It's got the two-pillar symbology. And when you approach this Mr. Hands character sitting on his couch, he is reading a book called the chess master. And he admits in the game that he is manipulating events and peoples throughout Night City in order to set up the politicians that he desires to be in power. Now, if you look at the pillar on the right, you see a key, and then below that, the Pythagorean theorem. And that is showing that the key to unlocking these two pillars of deception is the Pythagorean theorem, because that theorem unlocks the rate of curvature that should be visible on the earth, and that curvature is not seen anywhere. Thus, it falsifies their fake globe earth and their fake space. Then at the bottom of that same pillar, you see two hands doing a handshake, and that is showing that many deals have been made amongst many world leaders and many institutions around the world to run the hoaxes and deceptions necessary for these two pillars. Now, if you notice, there's a large tree in the center that represents of the tree of the fruit of knowledge that Adam and Eve ate from. And basically what they're showing there is that that event is what set everything into motion and has put them, the elites, into power over us. The next symbol we notice on the bottom right there is a beehive. And this ties into all of the slaves there working away on the mountain there in the background. This is showing the common masses. And the reason why they're showing a beehive is they are saying we must keep the slave masses busy like bees in a beehive so that none of them are able to figure out what we are doing. So how do you keep your masses busy like bees in a beehive? Well, number one, you continually jack up the cost of living. So you make sure that the price of housing, food, transportation, and basically all goods and services continue to increase over time. You also ensure that this increase in the cost of living slowly outruns wages, so that the increase in the cost of living happens more rapidly than wages increase, so that over time, people's earnings mean less and less and less. Then the next thing you do is you devalue the money itself. So over time, you make sure that the money that populace is using declines in value as time progresses. So now you have a twofold effect between the declining value of the currency and the gap that increases between cost of living and wages. Then, of course, the next thing you do is you allow rich investors, both domestic and foreign, to buy up all the farmland and spare land across whatever nation you're running. Then you let the government buy up any remaining land and call it national parks or wildlife reserves. And you make it such that the large commercial corporate farms can operate at scale and for much cheaper than small family-owned farms, and that forces the small family-owned farms to sell off their farms and move into the city. So now you've taken away everybody's ability to have their own land and their own homesteads for self-reliance. Now your populace has to rely on grocery stores and the grid and the umbilical cords of the system to live. Then once you have everyone at this point, then you can further strain everyone by greatly increasing job competition, by opening all the borders of your nation and letting foreign workers come in under work visas by the millions and millions who will work for less money than your domestic residents, thereby making job competition insane and the ability for people to keep their jobs volatile. Then you take it a step further than that even. You set up a college system where everyone must then go into debt to learn trades or to learn the knowledge needed for various industries before they can even go and get a job. So everyone even starts out in debt before they even begin. Then you make it very difficult for small businesses to survive, and you let the mega corporations dominate and snuff out all of the small businesses. Then after maybe a couple of decades, after you have lured everyone in with a college false promise and made everyone go into debt with student loans, then you suddenly render that whole system useless, and everyone finds out their degrees are meaningless and actually hold no value in getting a job. And that in reality, it's all based on a who-you-know mafia-style backdoor network system. Then you make obtaining credit and loans very easy and very tempting for everyone, and drive the philosophy of materialism into your populace. And any little bit of money anyone has left, goes into buying things they don't need, and people start having to take on debt and credit cards just to even pay their normal bills. Then you go after the healthcare system, and you start ensuring that healthcare is so outrageously expensive that if anything tragic happens to anyone, such as breaking an arm or a leg or having a heart attack or any major health issue happens, those individuals will instantly go bankrupt and basically be in debt for the rest of their life. So once you've reached this point, congratulations. You have your entire populace by the throat, and everyone is just scrambling like chickens with their heads cut off at all times, trying to figure out how they're going to keep their necks above water. Does this sound familiar? Sound like the USA? The head of the Illuminati agenda? And now that you have everyone scrambling wildly, trying to figure out how to survive, you then hit them constantly with propaganda and lies, and use MKUltra techniques through the TV. And once things are at this point, it is game over. Now you also notice some steps there below the mountain in this image, and that represents the false different levels of society where some people feel like they're getting ahead because they get a promotion. Some people get a slightly better paying job, but in reality, it's all meaningless. And as you can see, all of these steps are still below the mountain, meaning that you're still just trapped in this game that they've set up, or this rat race, where no one wins and everyone works until they croak. And you can only hope by the end of it that you have just a teensy bit of wealth you can hopefully pass on to your kids. But chances are the system will have found a way to rob that from you at some point, somehow. So there you have it. Now you understand the meaning of all these symbols in this image, and it is pure evil. So now we're going to look at a major public display of this Illuminati symbolism, and that can be found in the capital city of Kazakhstan, Nur Sultan. And the name Nur Sultan means light king. And of course, who is the king of light, or the false light? That would be Lucifer. As you will see, the Illuminati symbolism can be seen in the buildings and the complex of this city. Okay, so in this image, from this angle, you can see the two gold pillars, the two pillars of deception there, as those two gold towers. Then in the front, you see the sun worship tower because they worship the sun and the sun god Ra. Then behind that, you see the flat earth truth with the dome firmament. There is the blue dome on top. You can see the small sun above the firmament there too, connected by that gold spire. Then behind that, you see the Illuminati pyramid, and then behind that, the god of Horus there on that pole in the background. And obviously the god Horus is very important to them because they are trying to bring in the age of Horus, and they are trying to leave the age of Osiris. Now as we look at the overhead view of this complex, you see many things. In the bottom right, you see the Illuminati pyramid sitting in the center of a flat earth diagram. This then transitions to a sized slice of the earth moving to the left. And you can see the various planets and the sun and moon moving through different layers and different firmaments. Then at the very top, you see the god of Horus, which is kind of that bird-looking creature there, descending down into the earth through the hole there and that shaft that goes down, signifying that their Messiah is going to arrive and fulfill their dominion. And obviously, by having the pyramid sitting in the center of the earth there, they're signifying that they rule the earth at this time. Now, if you look above the Horus image there, you see that yin-yang symbol. That's also a flat earth symbol because it's symbolizing the path of the sun and the moon around the flat earth. Now, next, if you look in the bottom left, you see this blue oval shaped building with a white part on the roof there. And that represents the eye of Horus once again. Now, if you look at the waterway there and you see that semicircle shaped walkway with landscaping and everything there, kind of in the center, that is also a flat earth diagram. And it's showing the firmament there with the waters above, and it's showing you different positions and angles of the sun, which is the white dots, and then those smaller gray dots are positions of the moon. So they are showing something there having to do with sun and moon angles, probably something to do with what they know through secret government research about how the firmament refracts the images of the sun and moon, causing various apparent positions to be seen. And it probably has to do with certain angles and either times of year or times of the day. They might also represent the timing of eclipses, which are very important to the occult and to the Illuminati, as eclipses represent transitions and changes from one status to the next. Now here obviously we have a satanic pentagram, and this can be seen on a peninsula that is at a lake that is very close to the city complex we've just been looking at. And this is obviously very large. You can see by the trees, it's 2 to 3 football fields across in diameter. And this would take a considerable effort to create and maintain. So again, they put it right there in your face. Here's another famous example of their symbolism. The movie Stargate, which is a well-known sci-fi movie. As you can see here, they're depicting that they, the Illuminati, have dominion over the earth. You can see that's why their pyramid is situated on the earth there. You can see that glowing dome shape represents the firmament. And then they are showing a portal or stargate up in the stars there. And that represents the doorways that exist in the upper firmament where the stars are that allow entities to pass between the earth realm and the heavenly realms. And then, of course, they are showing Lucifer's false light hitting the top of the pyramid there. And that is a representation that Lucifer's throne is at the top of the Illuminati pyramid there. And again, here is your 2-pillar symbology there in the front with the 2 obelisks in the front. And then just like Nur Sultan, Kazakhstan, you've got the flat earth building kind of in between the pyramid and the obelisks. And then the pyramid in the background, just like Nur Sultan. Next, in these scenes, you'll see a bunch of slaves working on mountains. And what does that remind you of? The slaves working on the hill or the mountain in the Illuminati artwork? Yes, indeed. And here is this Ra character that rules like a god over this slave civilization on this planet. And you find out at the end of the movie he's actually an alien. And remember, aliens are nothing more than fallen angels. And of course, this entity would be at the top of the pyramid. Just like Azazel and the 200 fallen angels were when they came down in the time of Enoch and Noah and ruled mankind like gods back then. So they are trying to do again these days. Here's an image of Osiris and Horus that are also at the top of the pyramid with the god Ra. And at the end of the movie here, you see Ra's true form as the alien or the fallen angel. So now that you've seen some of the symbolism from the movie, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis so you understand this movie perfectly exposes the mission of the Illuminati. So there is a slave race or a slave society that lives on a distant planet from Earth. And they spend all day working hard, mining minerals out of these mountains. So there's your slaves on the mountain symbology. Every now and then, this god who calls himself Ra, and by the way, Ra is the Egyptian sun god, so there's your Illuminati sun worship, visits the planet and comes down to check in on his slaves. He arrives in this pyramid-shaped craft that covers over the existing pyramid, and then a bunch of panels recess and cause this leveled appearance to take place on the pyramid. And this represents the different levels of the power structure of the world. As I mentioned before, the Council of 13, the Council of 33, the Council of 300, then down to your, think tank organizations, the mega corporations, and the presidents, then the police, and so on and so forth. If the slaves get out of line and aren't performing satisfactorily or do something to anger Ra, he sends out Osiris and Horus to go out and deal punishments to their city or their towns. And they do this by flying in craft and flying over the towns and cities and bombing and shooting them. And that kind of represents the ways that the Illuminati on this world deliver blows to the masses and different communities here to keep everyone in check. How they, drive up cost of living and, create inflation and job scarcity and natural disasters and things like that to kind of keep the masses beaten down and in check. So a group of Marines, accompanied by this researcher who knows a lot about, Egyptian symbology and things, travels through a stargate from a secret research base on Earth and arrives on this planet at the same time that this Ra god also arrives. And once they get a grasp of everything that's going on and the fact they need to figure out how to get back home, they help this race of people on this world create a revolution to overthrow Ra and all of his henchmen and take power back for themselves. Well, it's at the end of the movie that this Ra figure tells the main character that he created this world and this civilization, and he can also destroy it. And that if there's going to be an uprising, he will just pull the plug on everything and destroy everyone by taking the nuclear bomb that they brought with them and blowing everyone up while he leaves the planet and flies away. And this is a perfect parallel for how the Illuminati are thinking about things today. You know, as they see more and more people waking up to what they're doing these days in the world, and they see, you know, the flat earth movement increasing and gaining ground, they probably begin to get a little concerned that at some point society is going to cross that threshold where too many people wake up and launch some kind of rebellion against them. So obviously they can't let that happen, and it means that they're going to have to pull the plug on everything across the world before that awakening hits too many people. And if you've watched my end time sequence video, you'll see exactly what their plans are to bring the world into destruction and chaos. And they intend to do these things soon because obviously, like I said, they can't let the awakening grow to too many people. And one of the major ways that they're going to do this is with nuclear exchange, which is very similar to the way that this Ra character in Stargate intends to try to destroy this society. He tries to do it with a nuclear weapon that he enhances with some of his technology to make the weapon even more deadly. It's also interesting that this Ra character in this movie takes the form of a pharaoh when he makes his appearances before the slaves. And all this symbology goes back to Egypt in the time of the fallen angels, around the time of Enoch. The pharaoh symbology goes back to the pharaoh that was holding God's people captive in Egypt, and how God had to send Moses to deliver his people out of bondage in Egypt. So again, it's kind of like the Illuminati are saying, we're the modern day pharaohs that are holding everybody in bondage. So I definitely recommend watching this movie. It definitely has a lot of symbology and many parallels to the Illuminati agenda, and you'll see it as soon as you watch it. And there are many other movies that contain this symbology, as well as video games and music or music videos. But I've always seen Stargate as one of the most profound and in-your-face examples of it. And of course, a lot of people have seen this, where the word Mason is spelled on the back of the dollar bill using an as above, so below pyramid. And of course, there's all kinds of other information on the back of the dollar bill. You know, you've got the great architect, Lucifer, his eye there on top of the pyramid. You've got all these references to 13 all over, 13 arrows, 13 stars, 13 layers of brick. And a lot of people think, well, that was for the 13 colonies. A lot of people don't stop and think, why was there 13 colonies? And, obviously here it's showing that there are 13 enlightened colonies. And I believe it's a reference to the Council of 13, which is at the top of that pyramid. There's all kinds of other stuff on here, such as, secular new order is written out below the pyramid. Over on the right, a lot of people think that's an eagle, but it's not. It's the phoenix, because the phoenix rises from the ashes of the old world to form the new world order. All this stuff on our currency is symbols and things that reference either the Illuminati Empire or their new world order to come. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. It's not, a lot of people misconstrued what a lot of this stuff means. And there's always surface level meanings with a lot of the stuff that the Illuminati put out. There's a surface level meaning that's meant for the masses, just to keep them ignorant and keep them naive. But the real meaning is what's hidden underneath. And so anyways, that's a lot of stuff happening on the dollar bill there. So here's Mr. Jacob Rothschild. His family is worth $500 trillion, owns nearly every central bank in the world, owns the news, media, oil, governments, finance, both sides of the war ever since Napoleon. So you have to understand, this Illuminati Empire goes a long way back. I mean, a long way back. It's been around for centuries. And, they've had a long time to kind of formulate governments and societies and formulate the direction of mankind and kind of do it in a way that's kind of been behind the scenes and kind of over the heads of the masses. And here we have Henry Kissinger, another Illuminati elite, who says it plainly. He says who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world. So there it is, out of his own lips. And again here, out of the mouth of one of the Rothschilds. Give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws. So, of course, this is just showing again that the trillionaire elites run the world and they control all the world leaders. And then here, straight from the lips of David Rockefeller, he's basically saying, that we're close to the New World Order. All we need is just a major crisis, and the nations will fall right into it. So, again, you see here that their ultimate goal has always been the New World Order. And you might say, well, why? They're already, filthy rich and already have pretty much all the power and control of the world. And, the reason is because they want even more power. The current empire they have is still not good enough for them. They have so much money at this point that money's meaningless to them. So what they really want is pure totalitarian control over the human race. That's their ultimate goal here. These people are pure evil, and they're just they're greedy to the max, and they are just materialistic to the max, and they are selfish to the max, and so they just want the whole human race serving them, and they want to live as just gods on earth, basically. So now let's take a look at the Georgia Guidestones here for a second. This monument is set up in Elbert County, Georgia, and it was erected in 1980. And guess what month and what day? March 22nd. So there's your 322 skull and bones number there. So, none of that's by accident, of course. It's all deliberate. And there's a lot of secrecy behind this monument, and such as, who was responsible for designing it and building it. Many people in the chain of this project have kind of been sworn to secrecy, including, one of the bankers that helped fund the project has kept his mouth shut about, who the people really are behind this thing. So it's very mysterious. It's got many really interesting features, such as there's a hole that's cut in one of the stones that always points towards Polaris. And it has 10 commandments that are inscribed on it for the New World Order. And, I'm not going to read all of those. You can go look those up for yourself. But one of them that's really disturbing is a commandment that says, maintain humanity at 500 million or less. So obviously, their goal for the New World Order is to have no more than 500 million people on Earth. So, right now we have way more people on Earth than they want. So they're going to have to get rid of, roughly 6.5 billion people to knock humanity down to the 500 million that they want. And of course, if you watch my video on the end time sequence, you can see exactly how they're planning to do that. Also in one of my videos, I explained to you Albert Pike and his plan for the 3 world wars, and how, the final world war is just going to be horrific and just have mass death on a level that we've never seen before. So all these things are going to help them get the world population down to that level that they want. But, things like this are just kind of like the truth in plain sight, showing everyone what their plans are. It's like nobody pays attention, or they think, oh, it's just kind of like mythology, or this is just kind of like somebody's big practical joke that they put here just to kind of freak everyone out. People don't take it seriously, but people should take it seriously because, all this stuff is very real, and their plans are very, very real, and we've seen their plans unfolding for decades and centuries now, so there's no doubt about it. So it's time for people to wake up. One other thing I think that's interesting about this monument is the fact that there's 10 commandments for the New World Order, and that's kind of like a mockery of the Bible, where God gave Moses 10 commandments for mankind. So this is kind of their way of mocking God by coming up with their 10 commandments for their kingdom and their empire. Now, interestingly enough, a couple years ago, a random individual shows up in the middle of the night, plants a bomb by this monument, then quickly drives away, and then shortly after, the bomb explodes and destroys it. And this just adds to the whole mysterious sequence of events connected with this monument, and is very suspicious, especially since they claim that even to this day, they have not been able to identify any suspects, and no one's been arrested in connection with this. So if you ask me, it looks to me like too many people were becoming aware of the Georgia Guidestones, and the Illuminati sent some kind of agent to go and destroy it. So now I want to show you examples of rich or famous people or politicians in society that are flashing Illuminati hand signs. And here you see in this image the first example of a hand sign. That is the Masonic two-pillar sign. And you can see 3 different ways that could be done with someone's hand. But this hand sign basically represents the 2 pillars of deception, or the Masonic 2 pillars. So in this first image, you see President Bush flashing it, then Pope Francis, Elijah Wood, Kim Kardashian, The Rock, Tom Cruise, Fergie. And then this image, you see several people doing it. The Clintons, Obama, Reagan, Now, the next hand sign I want to cover is this one here, which is the Illuminati pyramid. And they do this a lot, and it can be done in a couple of different ways, as you'll see here in a second. So you can see a whole bunch of people in this image doing it. Denzel Washington, Ben Stiller, Tom Cruise, and then here's Merkel, and this is another way that this hand sign can be done. And then we see, of course, Donald Trump here doing it as well. So now let's take a look at this hand sign here, the 666 hand sign. And a lot of people think it's the AOK symbol, but it's not. It's the 3 fingers each make a 6. You can see Justin Bieber doing it here, Bill Clinton, Lady Gaga. Now, an interesting story about Lady Gaga is you can find interviews where, she's on TV shows or, late night shows or whatever, talking about how she became famous. And her story is that she was having a hard time, working at like bars, barely making any money. And she was kind of like at her wit's end with everything. And about that time, she was approached by somebody in the Illuminati that works for Hollywood that basically promised her that if she signed, up with him and his organization, that he could make her famous, make all her dreams come true. And of course she did it, but she has admitted that it quickly led to her having to sell her soul and basically sign her life away on a contract that she could never get out of. And that's what happens to all these stars. They have a hard time, but then they're approached by someone on the inside, a Freemason usually, that promises them fame and fortune. So these people are sellouts. They sell their souls to get to where they are. And these are the people that everyone likes to follow. People like to worship these celebrities like they're some kind of gods or goddesses, when all they did was sell their soul to the devil. Come on, people, wake up. It's time for people to start following Jesus and stop idolizing these sellouts. These evil little fiends that basically are, agreeing to do all kinds of evil acts and mislead the masses for riches. It's ridiculous. And the United States is the worst about that, about celebrity worship. I can't stand it. I know a lot of people that they focus on celebrities all the time and they worship them. It's ridiculous. It's time for people to wake up, seriously. You got sellout Steven Tyler here, Kevin Spacey, Trump. And then here's, the beloved band, the Beatles, that the whole world's in love with. Doing the Masonic pillar hand sign and the 666 hand sign. And by the way, this advertisement here is for the song Yellow Submarine. I bet a lot of people don't realize that's actually a flat earth song because, We All Live in a Yellow Submarine is a direct reference to the flat earth because the flat earth is submerged underwater and it's surrounded by water, so it's basically a submarine. And the fact that it's a yellow submarine is implying land. Land is kind of like sandy or yellowish in color, I guess. So they're basically saying, we all live in land that's submerged underwater. But oh boy, do people love this band, but they don't realize that these guys are mocking the masses, by putting the truth in plain sight, but kind of in a deceptive way that, isn't directly obvious to everyone. But, that just shows you who all these people are. And they don't care. They're drunk on their riches and their fame. And then you have this hand sign here, which is the Eye of Horus. And it's done by covering either one eye or the other. And, they can do this in a lot of very creative ways. I've seen even hairdos where like part of their hair will cover over one eye. Or sometimes even they'll do it with lighting where they'll put half of the person's face in shadow and put the other half of the face in light, so that way you only see one eye. But anyways, you'll see this all over advertising, all over movies, all over the place. And it's a reference to the Eye of Horus because they can't wait for the age of Horus to begin. We're in the age of Osiris now. But the age of Horus is what they're trying to bring in and usher in right now. And it will coincide with their New World Order and kind of be more of like a, unhindered kind of freedom to sin and do whatever you want and kind of an anything goes kind of society. And so that's kind of what they're looking forward to. Look at sellout Brad Pitt right here wearing his Freemason ring. Sometimes these people, they don't even try to hide it. They kind of put it out in everybody's face, but still no one pays attention. Now I want to clear a couple of other things up here too. Some people might say, well, some of these people donate to charities and they donate money to things like cancer organizations or starving children's funds. And my response to that is these people don't care about the starving children. They don't care about people with cancer. All they care about is the publicity and the image that they're getting from doing it. Their agents are probably telling them, oh, if you do this, you're going to get even more popularity and the public's going to like you even more. So we suggest doing it, And like for these people who have, $100 million worth of assets, donating $1 million of it to some charity is nothing for them, but to the common masses, they think, oh, they just donated $1 million to this charity, because to us, that's a lot of money. But to them, that'd be like us just grabbing a few pennies out of our cup holder in the car and throwing it at some charity. So trust me, these people don't, it's not coming from good intentions. The other thing is some people might say, oh, well, these people get up in their award shows and they thank God for getting them there. And some of them wear cross necklaces and, a lot of them thank God and claim to be Christians and things like that. And my response to that is the same thing. These people are not really Christians. They're doing it for image. They're doing it to look good. They know that's what the public wants to hear and the masses want to hear because they already know that, there's a tendency for some people to kind of see them as like, stuck up or snobby or greedy or whatever. So their agents probably tell them, well, wear this cross necklace and thank God during the Academy Awards. So that way people think you're a good person. It'll help your publicity, And so they just do it for that. Because I can tell you without a doubt, if any of these people became a Christian, truly, they would come under such attack from the devil for basically betraying their agreements with him that they would lose everything. They would lose their money, they would lose their jobs, they'd lose their acting careers or their music careers or their political careers. They'd come under attack by their peers, by their, organizations or sponsors, because if they really started following the Bible and everything that it says, all the people that surround them wouldn't be able to take it or tolerate it. And these people would lose everything. So, unless you see one of these people accept Christ and then lose everything and basically disappear off of the television and disappear off the radar, it's fake. Because I can tell you that's exactly what would happen. Again, the devil is the god of this world. And he controls who's famous and who's not in his world. So you can't You can't serve two masters, as the Bible says. You can't serve both God and money. So you can't be a Christian and be a rich and famous celebrity at the same time. It does not work. The spiritual laws that govern this world would not allow that. And then you got guys like this, Jeff Bezos, faking space and faking, little trips to space and things like that. And he runs Amazon, and I worked for Amazon for a little while. I worked at one of the fulfillment centers, and I can tell you right now that they don't treat their people right, especially at the bottom. We were overworked, abused, not treated well at all. Meanwhile, this guy gets filthy rich and doesn't even pay taxes. So you got evil little fiends like this in operation. Then you got good old Billy here, who's helping run the pandemic, and setting up the beast system. And just do a little research on him, and you'll see all the various evil ventures he's been a part of, and experiments and technologies that he's developed, and agendas he's been a part of, and things like that. And then we got good old Musk here, who's running SpaceX. And of course, what does that title mean? SpaceX. An X is kind of like an ant, like a wrong, like on America's Got Talent, when they X somebody out, they hit the X button and it goes ant, So basically the title of his company is saying space, ant, wrong, there is no space. That's what his title is saying. Again, they put the truth in plain sight. It's just nobody pays attention. And, just watch this guy in interviews and stuff. He's full of himself. He's a cocky little sucker, isn't he? These people, their egos are just outrageous. And let's not forget about this guy, Mr. Metaverse, Zuckerberg, designing the Matrix for everybody to plug into. And he set up, of course, Facebook, which I believe is responsible for more mental issues than just about anything else that has ever been designed, because it's got people comparing each other's lives with each other and being in some kind of competition to see who can have the coolest looking life, by plastering up pictures of like vacations and houses and cars and job promotions. And it's got everybody, being superficial with each other, and, just, it's done a lot of damage to our society and to people's social interactions. But does he care? No, just look at his grin there. He's rich. So hopefully I've driven the point home with you now about, who these celebrities are and the people in the high places of this world, that they just serve the devil. So as you see here in this graphic, this is another big slogan for the Illuminati, and it is as above, so below. And you can see that there is an upward standing pyramid and a downward facing pyramid. And the upward facing pyramid represents the heavenly city of New Jerusalem, as I explained in one of my previous videos. It's God's kingdom. It's the kingdom of good. And then below that, with the downward-facing pyramid, is this earthly realm, and that is Satan's kingdom. And that is also why that pyramid is black, because it's representing evil and basically being opposite of God's kingdom, where everything here is inverted, upside down, backwards, and it is Satan running everything down here on earth. So basically, that's what they're saying in this statement, as above, so below. They're saying, just as God's kingdom is above, things are the same way down here, but it's just Lucifer in charge, and that's the only difference. And of course, that's why the Illuminati use the pyramid as one of their main symbols, and why there's pyramid architecture, such as the Luxor in Las Vegas that has the beam of light that shoots out of the top. That's because Lucifer is the light bearer. He's the angel of light, a false light. So you can see, their pyramid symbology everywhere. And this is why. So Satan's kingdom is all designed to mock God and mock God's kingdom. So, like I said here, everything is reversed. Everything is upside down. The bad people are all at the top, and the good people have been shoved all to the bottom in this world. But thank the Lord that this is all just temporary, and Satan's kingdom is not going to be here much longer. Now, I want you to take a long look at this image. This is a picture of Jesus coming down at the Battle of Armageddon. And the Christians are all behind him, and there's an army of angels around him. Now, if you've watched my end time sequence video, you'll know that very soon there's going to be 7 years of God's wrath that's going to hit the earth. It's going to bring mass destruction, mass death, and the whole world's going to turn into a nightmare. Right before this wrath begins, God is going to rapture his true people out of here. But, it's going to be 7 years of just pure hell on earth. And then right at the end of that, Jesus is going to come down to the earth, and we're going to follow him down. And there's going to be angels all around him. And with a wave of his hand, he's going to obliterate all of the evil and the wickedness here and just turn it to dust. And he's going to come down and he's going to start his 1,000-year millennial kingdom. And we're going to reign with him during that period of time. And, that period of time is so he can test the final group of people, the final group of human beings on this earth, where he's going to let Satan out, towards the end of that 1,000 years, one last time, to test everyone. And then after that, we're going to go to the infinite kingdom, the perfect kingdom. And you can see here the heavenly city, New Jerusalem, that is 1,400 miles wide by 1,400 miles long, and it is 1,400 miles tall in the center. So it's incredibly massive. It's made out of the most precious gemstones and jewels and glass and, translucent materials and gold and silver, and just it's beyond human comprehension. So, the inheritance that God's people is going to receive is many, many, many times greater than anything that anyone could ever receive on this earth. So all these celebrities right now, they have these mansions and exotic cars and take, exotic vacations and things like that. None of that stuff is even going to compare to what God has waiting for his people. But that's the trick of the devil. The devil wants to try to lure people in with temporary things that are right now, and trick people into thinking that this life is all there is, but at the cost of people's souls. And people don't realize that the devil is not capable of offering anything close to the level of inheritance that God is going to give his people. It doesn't even come close. God is going to perfectly restore the earth. We're going to have perfect immortal bodies and just feel like incredible at all times. No more pain, no more suffering. The earth will be perfect, and it's infinite. The things that Satan gives to his people here is just a blink of an eye. It's temporary. This life that we get here is just a poof of wind. As the Bible says, it's here today and gone tomorrow. So please make the right decision. Decide to follow Jesus and follow God. And even if that means it costs you everything in this life and everything in this world, that's only a blink of an eye. It's only temporary. And the rewards that you're going to receive in the eternal life is going to far outweigh 1,000,000,000,000,000 times over any suffering or hardship that you had to endure here as a result. So don't listen to the lies of the devil. Don't be tempted by things of this world. And you need to also realize that there's no such thing as straddling the fence or, being neutral or walking both paths at the same time. You can't serve God and serve the devil at the same time. And there's plenty of scriptures that say that. So there's no cheating the system, And, basically we're at war. And whether everybody likes it or not, this is a war where, the forces of good and evil are battling for people's souls. And, we're all thrown into this. And, you're either on one side or the other. And there's no such thing as being neutral. You can't just say, well, I don't want to have a part in any of this, and I just want to be comfortable and enjoy my life and have some nice stuff and stay out of everything. There is no staying out of it. We're all in this whether we like it or not. And so you're either on one side or the other. So you need to make your decision as to which side you stand. Do you stand on Satan's side or do you stand on God's side? And if you try to avoid this decision and just say, well, I'm just going to give it more time or or just not decide and try to stay neutral, then what you don't realize is that by default, you'll go to Satan's side, because that's the default side for every human being. Unless we actively choose God's side, we all default to Satan's side. So, we all have to make this decision whether we like it or not. So again, choose wisely and find Jesus here before time runs out and it's too late. So hopefully this video has helped you see the people that run this world and the true power structure of the world. And I will see you next time.